and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be recommending you children's books for adults. Basically, I've got a pile of books next to me, old and new, collections, fictions, a load of books that are marketed and labelled as children's books. However, I think these books are absolutely perfectly suited to adults as well, and honestly some of them surprise me that they are children's books and I have to remind myself these are actually written for kids. Now, I don't believe in putting an age limit on books as you get older. I don't think that there should be a cut-off point that suddenly you hit your mid-20s, you can't read YA anymore, you hit your teens, you can't read children's books anymore. If you like the look of a story and it looks like something you would find engaging and enjoyable, isn't that the point of literature, that we enjoy it? So this list is just for fun, really, and there's obviously no restrictions on who can and can't read these, but these are typical children's books that I just think are written more in a style that adults could also enjoy, or enjoy them with children as well. So I'm just gonna dive straight in and show you the collection I've got. This is also a post that I wrote on my blog a few weeks back, so I'll link that down below if you're interested. But basically I just talked about it on my blog a little bit and thought I quite enjoyed it, so I wanted to explore it more in video form as well. So here we are. First up, we've got the His Dark Materials series by Philip Pullman. I have to remind myself that these are originally children's books because when you read them, they are so detailed, so deep, they talk about so many things to do with religion and theology that it's difficult to remind yourself these are actually written initially for children. I did not read these as a child, I read these as an adult, and that for me was a perfect age to read them. I felt they were complicated but also simple enough that I could keep up with them, but there was a lot more complex layering going on in these books. The fact that these are originally written for children blows my mind a little bit because I feel like if I was reading these at age 12 or 13 I probably would have found them quite complex and there would have been a lot more going on and I might not have wanted to read them as much because they would have been a bit on the heavier side, and when I was younger I didn't go towards those kind of books as much. But now I've really enjoyed them. I would be interested to see if my sister wants to pick these up at any age, not now because she's 8, but like at any younger age. I would be interested to see what she thinks of this series if she tries to tackle them younger, because I do feel like as kids books you get lost in them. But this is a very fantastical world following Lyra, who has a demon. Everyone has demons, they're like these little creatures that represent their soul, and she basically goes on this adventure throughout all 3 books. It's very fantastical. There's so many different things happening, there's many different worlds and universes, and just it's really good. I love this series very much. So this would be number 1 on my recommendations of children's books for adults. Then we've got the book that sparked the idea for this blog post, and that is J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. At the time of filming this, I am in the middle of this book for the Tolkien Along. This is the September pick read. I mean, it's the first one out of the Lord of the Rings world, so we're going to start with this one and then work our way through them each month. I will link that video up there if you wanted to check it out and join in. But this book is written for children but perfect for adults because I think the fun that's written for children seeps through the pages but is also so much fun for adults as well. This very much feels like a book to be spoken aloud, and I think that's where it ticks the box for children because it uses alliteration, it uses onomatopoeias, it's got that fun storytelling way to it that is that traditional storytelling story. Any story is storytelling, I know, but this just feels like one that you would read to a child at bedtime. However, reading it as an adult, I am noticing much more to it and picking up on the details, and I'm really enjoying listening along to the Andy Serkis audiobook at the same time as reading it, so I'm kind of getting both of those worlds as well. But I'm really enjoying this as an adult. I have not read this before, this is the first time reading it. I think I tried as a kid and thought it was a bit too heavy. Again, I think it's maybe more because it's daunting than anything, because I know that J.R.R. Tolkien's work is extensive, detailed, and has a lot in it. But I'm really enjoying this, and I think this is a book that, sure, is written for kids, but also this world is so expansive and the films have brought it around so much, so I think adults can definitely get a lot out of this as well. I don't often go towards classics, but if I did, then this would be one of my favourites. This is Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Obviously, we all know this story. This is Alice going through a hole in the ground and becoming entangled into this complete world of Wonderland. This book is so broad when it comes to imagination, and I think for children that's amazing because you can dip in and out of all these wonderful settings in this bizarre world where the Queen has playing cards that help her out with things and there's a floating cat without a head at times. It's just brilliant, but also for adults I think this can untap the child side and the creativity. I always love that this book is nonsensical and anything can happen in this storyline. You wouldn't be surprised with the amount of bizarro things that go on. And I enjoy reading about that as an adult because I feel less adult books have that complete absurdity. There's some that do, of course, but I think that now I'm seeing less and less books just completely run away with your imagination, and I miss that more, and I enjoyed that so much about children's books. So having this to open that door and other books that are inspired by this, I think is great for adults to also be able to get that enjoyment out of books as well. Next, I have got Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. This is a book I read years and years and years ago. This is my copy that I got when I was a little kid. I was in a bookshop and I'd finished my current read and I was staying with my dad and I wanted another book to read, and he said I could pick one book, and I picked this, and then I remember sitting down and devouring it. Have not read this as an adult, so I'd be interested to see how I take it as an adult. But the reason that I put that in this book in this list is because the heart of this book is children not wanting to grow up. And I think when you become an adult, an official adult in over 18, you suddenly realise that there's nothing different. There's no moment where you're like, I'm an adult now. And sometimes I'm still like, when am I going to become an adult? And I'm 25. So I think that this book resonates with children for sure, but I think also this book would resonate with adults, because actually the joke's on them, because you never really grow up. You've always got that child at heart feeling, and I think that this book is reminiscent of that, and it's nostalgic of that feeling of not wanting to grow up, but then now we're all like, well, we grew up, but we didn't really. So Peter Pan, ladies and gentlemen, is on my recommendation. Then we've got Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. This one I read a couple of years back, like 4 years ago maybe now. I had not read this series as a kid, and I really, really wish I did, because Rick Riordan is such a fantastic writer. He is so good at creating these worlds with the familiar characters of the gods, but with demigods, with their kids, and it's so intricate, but also he's so good at including diversity and being really strong with his representation. His books, I really enjoyed the Magnus Chase trilogy, which I have read in its entirety. Loved that. Need to finish this series. I want to read it soon, maybe this year or next, because I did buy the box set of them, which this one was part of. It's a really weird cover. I haven't seen this one apart from the box set, but I don't dislike it. I like that they all match. But this is on my list because I think the magic and the fun in this story is something you can enjoy at any age, and I also like the fact that he gets a bit older as each book progresses and you've got that journey with him. I love a book where you can go on a journey and you can look back at book number 1 and think, God, look how far we've come at like book number 5 or something. So that's the reason this is on the list. Also, I'm aware that I think he's like 12 or something in this book, if I can remember rightly, whereas in the film he is maybe about 16, so there's quite a difference in the type of Percy we see on cinema and the type of Percy we see on page. So the contrast between the two there makes this read a little bit younger than the film age is aimed at. However, I do think there's a lot to enjoy in this series. Maybe this is one to read with kids as well. I'm trying to get my sister to be interested in listening to these on audio, because she's going through loads of books on Audible at the moment, and I think she would probably quite enjoy these because she enjoys the films. These next two are not quite fiction in the same way that the other ones are. In fact, one of them's not fiction at all. But along the line of Greek mythology, I have got the Usborne Book of Greek Myths. This is a book collection I have had for ages, and whilst this isn't really like specifically aimed at any age group, I think because it is just a general Greek myths book, I think if you're in a bookshop this would be in the kids section. It's an Usborne book, it's beautifully illustrated, she says, turning into a page without any illustrations on it. Hang on. Look at that. I adore this. I'm a little bit sad because I have printed a flower into it and it seeped through the pages. You see, I don't even know where the flower is. The flower is gone. But this is a brilliant collection of Greek myths. This is great if you're interested in kind of a starter guide to the Greek myths and getting more into it and understanding them, because these stories are very short, they're illustrated, they're fun. The reason I'm putting this on the list is because I think as an adult you can appreciate these kind of stories in a very different way, and you can look at how you see them reflected in modern literature or older literature and film as well, because actually a lot of books and films take inspiration from myths, which is fantastic, and I love being able to figure that out the more of these myths I read and understand. So I think great for kids, but also really fantastic to be enjoyed by adults as well. And finally, we have Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. I adore the premise of these books. Every page is dedicated to a different woman in history. They're fantastic. I just adore them. Like, the illustrations are different for each person as well. I love the fact the art style changes, and just, these are great for being inspirational for young girls or boys, but I think as an adult there's a lot of people in here I haven't heard of, or I don't know their stories fully. I might know their name, and I think to be able to discover that as an adult and learn a bit more about it and retain that information is also really good, because this wasn't around when I was a kid, so I didn't have the opportunity to read this as a child, so to read it as an adult now gives me that knowledge as well. And the fact that they're good night stories, they literally are something you can just read before bed or in the morning or on a lunch break. They're so quick and easy, so definitely recommend this for adults as well. So those are my recommendations of children's books for adults. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope it made sense. Obviously you can read as an adult any age book. That is absolutely fine. I hate the idea that there would be restrictions or people wouldn't pick something up that they think they'd enjoy because it wasn't aimed at their age group. Sod it, read what you want, but these are a couple that I thought would be fun to recommend. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you've got any more recommendations down below in the comments, and if you'd like to see more of my face on your feed, you may subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, keep smiling and stay positive.